Hey, it's Blast on Mike, and welcome to Blast on Mike's Fire Rock TV show. And today I have a legend, an icon, and all that good stuff. Jason McMaster, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. You're doing a podcast now yourself, right?
Yeah, 3 years in. Started during the pandemic, of course. Nothing better to do. It was an idea from a friend of mine. The podcast is called the Talk Louder podcast. And it's so 3 years. It's still fairly new, I guess. I know people have
Mhm.
been doing podcasting for years. And it really wasn't even that long ago that I didn't even know what the hell a podcast was. I don't listen to podcasts, or very often. I should correct myself. Um, it's just not something that excites me that much, unless somebody's interviewing somebody who I completely adore. I it's watching paint dry. So, for those of you who listen to podcasts, who watch, podcast streaming or download or live or whatever, God bless you.
It is me. I interview a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of people over my life. My thing is listening to my voice, man. I can't stand to hear myself talk.
Yeah, I very well I have been accused and might even agree sometimes that I might even like to hear myself talk too much. Um, but yeah, it's a little weird, and you know what? The more you do it, you get better at it, and it gets easier to hear your own voice, and you kind of come up with your own inflections. It's kind of like singing, you know. You know when it's when it's right, and what inflections you need. Being a public speaker, it can turn into work if you're just not used to speaking in public. And it all kind of started with the teacher asking you to read your book report live up in front of the class, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kinda sucks. And then you realize there's a flow to it, and it's almost like singing, sort of.
You've been doing this for many many years, man. What's the key to your success? You think?
Well, if this is I mean, I know what you mean, but it makes me laugh a little bit inside. Um, Success is different to everybody, and
Mhm.
I won't tear apart the question too bad, but, I'm glad that you think I'm successful, and I appreciate that. There's no secret other than you better love your job.
Well, I mean, you've reinvented yourself many times over the years. Everything from Watchtower to Dangerous Toys, the Broken Teeth, to the many other bands you played in, or you've guessed in, or you've helped somebody because the singer couldn't sing, or whatever the case may be. Is my point.
Um, y I'm a fan, uh, of music and art, and, I'm no different than people waiting outside the backstage door to meet my favorite artist and get them to sign something and chat them up a little bit, and, I've been lucky enough to meet some people who I completely adore their voice or their guitar playing or their, bands and artists that surprisingly were interested in befriending me. And it was then after that um I became a somewhat known artist myself. I was already friends with some of the people that I follow, that I'm a big fan of. So it's because I'm a fan first, and the proof is there because the people that I follow, the bands that I follow or that I love, um, they're like, "Wow, that you're that kid from Texas, and now you're have your own band and you're doing, you know what I mean? So it's been an interesting sort of like passing of the baton. I don't know. I can't come up with the right, um, scenario to describe, but I've always been a fan. And, so, me, just being at the show in the front row is where I belong. So if you never forget that you're a fan first, everything else kind of is secondary. But I love to sing and play guitar and write songs and create art and even talk about doing that shopping list I just gave you. It's all very important to me to feel alive because I'm a fan before anything else. So that's the secret to my success. To answer your question, long-winded, I'm a fan. So whatever comes my way from just supporting art and the things that I love, the universe has more than not been quite shining my way. So just so at least enough so I can find my smile, So
Yeah. What makes you bring back Dangerous Toys often?
I'm sorry, what makes me bring back Dangerous Toys often?
Yeah, like you're playing the mountain, the music on the mountain, or metal on the mountain, or whatever's being called now, and Pigeon Forge with Dangerous Toys. You
Gatlinburg.
don't Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg,
Yeah,
yeah,
same place. Yeah.
just the mountain. It used to be called Monsters on the Mountain, which is the Monsters of Rock cruise, people that they do, Monsters on the Mountain, which they've just called it the Mountain now. The phone rings, Michael. If the phone rings, we have the option to say yes, or we have the option to say no. Or we have the
So
option to say, "We need more money than that."
we need more
You know
money
what
than.
you know what I mean? It's not a matter of bringing back. I used to say this thing all the time, "Never break up the band. Never break up the band." You can just sort of fade away and sit in the easy chair and just wait for the phone to ring if nothing's I mean, working harder throwing yourself out there gets expensive. Dangerous Toys has been lucky enough to make at least some kind of mark, uh, right place, right time. A lot of people say we should have come out a few years earlier than we did, and they're not wrong. But
Yeah,
it's just kind of how it happened. We were lucky to kind of squeeze in there in the class of '89. There were a few bands from that summer I feel like are quite relevant, and we were lucky enough to become, at least our first album, did well enough to where here we are 30 something years later, almost 40 years later going on. W- we're able to get a call and play a gig. So yeah,
but
that's
you
my
you did several albums after that though. You know, Hellacious
after.
Acres came out. Hellacious
Well,
Acres came out, and
well,
then
of course,
August 4.0.
there's 4 studio records, and there's a live record from '99, that's a retrospective. It has stuff from the entire career on it, and, yeah, that stuff gets the latter, Pissed and the artist and the live record are available now. Deadline Cleopatra has reissued all that. The first 2 that were on, Columbia Records, those are the ones that are hard to find right now, at least on vinyl. The first album you can buy right now on Amazon for, $9. So, yeah, we were lucky to get in when we did, and, if the phone keeps ringing, we'll keep showing up.
Do you think that those two ever be re-released again now that vinyl's so big again, or is that something that you don't have an option to do?
Well, there's always a possibility of renegotiating your contract after a certain length of term of your contract, and you can renegotiate with the label. But a lot of bands just don't have the attorney or the money, or but that's a popular thing. A lot of people are selling their catalog now to certain people, but renegotiating that initial deal is a popular item with bands right now. Kiss and Queen and Bruce Springsteen, and everybody is selling their catalog for millions of dollars. Now, we're not any of those bands. We don't have that kind of power. But it's possible that if there's a renegotiation, which there might be, I can't really talk about it right now. Uh, it's possible. It's always possible that the first two records could be reissued. There's some bootleg crap out there of those first two records that I wish people would not buy, because it's not real and the band doesn't make any money. But it's all on colored vinyl and all that shit, and and that's what fans want. They want like the cool, underground band that's been reissued by another label or whatever. Um, I would endorse the Deadline Cleopatra reissues of Pissed and the Artist, and the live album, which is called Vitamins and Crash Helmets.
Hmm.
Uh, but the first two, if you find it and there's no liner notes on the back, that is a bootleg, and the band makes zero support money from that. So try not to buy that.
That's been going on for a long time.
Well,
Re-releasing of albums and not make the band not making any money from it. It's a bad. It was bad back in the day when Napster did it, but it's gotten even worse over the years.
well, Napster was a file sharing application that was quickly becoming popular because it was, file sharing. To me, just that phrase was new to me. File sharing, what the hell is that? And then I learned, so I understood it, you know, quickly when Lars explained it to the world, that file sharing is like tape trading, but without the band's involvement. So if the band is giving away songs, that's completely different than Joe Blow recording a copy of your album, sort of, bootleg, buying a copy, bootlegging it, and putting it online for all of the world to see, that without any of the band's knowledge or control, or that's stealing. So even I receive checks that I would have never gotten unless Lars would have knocked on the door and said, "Hey, you're pirating my music and everybody else's music." Eddie Vedder would have said the same thing. If it wouldn't have been Lars, it would have been somebody else going in going, "Hey, fucker, you're stealing from me. You're giving away my record, and I didn't say that you could give away my record." You know, so that's different than a reissue on vinyl or CD. That's stealing. So just to
Yeah.
be clear, just to be clear.
And over the years, you've been successful with Broken Teeth.
Yeah, I'm glad that people like that. If you call that successful, I love you, buddy, because
Mhm.
it's not very successful. We're not making any kind of there's no money in it. So I'm just glad that some people recognized it and liked it enough to talk about it, because uh, yeah, brokenteeth.com is where people can go buy Broken Teeth.
And you just put out, I don't know how long it's been, but you put out a box set of that, right? On vinyl and on CD.
No, no, there's a CD box set where you can buy like 8 Broken Teeth CDs. It's 7 or 8 CDs in one box set for a really good price of, like, I don't know, $40 or $50 or something. And that's at brokenteeth.com. And that was years ago. The last thing that this band put out that Broken Teeth put out was called Evil in the Queue, and it was a live record. And it came out 4 years ago
Wow.
during the pandemic.
Well, is that still a band
So
that you're
yeah.
still doing, or are you not? You're not doing that band anymore.
Yeah, we are. We have new material that's kind of sitting there waiting for us to finish it. But everybody in the band is really busy with other things because Broken Teeth is, I wouldn't call it a collective, but it's, me and a bunch of people that I've been making music with for a long, long time who are also in other projects or busy or, songwriters or hired gun guitar players or doing other things all the time. So, uh, that's what I mean by it could be called a collective because it's everybody's in other projects and stuff. So the guys in Broken Teeth are busy. It just may or may not be with Broken Teeth. So, but we do have new songs. I think we have about 6 or 7 songs with tons of ideas. It's just a matter of flushing them out and getting in the studio.
I remember one of the guys from Pariah is in that band.
Yeah,
The great band from Austin.
Jared Tootin, yeah, he's the producer of my podcast, Talk Louder.
Oh, cool, cool, yeah.
Mhm.
I remember Pariah when I was younger, the demo "Rattle Your Skull,"
Mhm.
and I was on eBay one day and I found it on eBay for like $10 and bought it. It's been years ago that I got a copy of it again, but I quite like that band a lot, and you
Yeah,
know.
Pariah was great. I think that they kinda missed the boat. I think they got a record deal in time to, make a difference or make a dent, but the label sat on the record and I have a feeling they were thinking about not putting it out at all, and it didn't come out until, like, '92, and, they got a record deal in, like, 1990, I think. So the label sat around a bit too long. By the time that uh Tamaka Killingbird is the name of that record.
Hmm.
By the time Tamaka Killingbird came out, they had already advanced as players and songwriters, and they had this killer, like, I'll just call it the second album. They already had it written and were playing shows, and they had already redeveloped their band and their, honed in exactly what they were trying to say and do. And it was kind of like their second record shoulda coulda been their first record, and it probably would have done well. But it was just, a little too late, kind of like I mentioned with the Toys. If we would have come out, in '86, it probably would have done a little better. So the same story. I think that it's just hard to keep up with the climate of what's, following trends is bullshit anyway. But as far as like, if you're a bean counter, if you're a manager or a publisher, or, you're looking for talent that's sort of, I hate saying it, that's trending, you know.
A lot of those trends can go out the window, though. I mean, like, overseas and places like that. I mean, they just love music. America's always been the place where people are like flavor of the month or
Yeah.
what's big, and
Yeah.
you were ultimately a part of a scene that got destroyed by another scene, you know,
Well,
when
became saturated, didn't it?
yeah, there were so
Yeah.
many bands. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I didn't know the difference between Angel City and Angel, It was like so many bands had the same name, had the same look, had the same everything. Even though that's the music that I still love to this day, it was all so the same, I mean, now, it's getting that way with like more like stoner rock music and music like that. It's getting saturated and you don't know who to listen to. It's so good to hear a band that's different, that's out there, that doesn't, like you said, isn't worried about selling a million CDs, but for the love of music. And I always seen you as one of those kind of guys that's for the love of music, because you do so many different art. You got so many bands that you do stuff with. What is your count now of bands that you do stuff with, pretty much?
Well, I collaborate with people. So if you're gonna make a grocery list, that's you got a half hour. I mean, it could take a second.
Yeah,
The thing
yeah.
is, they're not they don't I don't play live with over half of them. It's just collaborations, and they used to call them studio projects. The important thing to know is that, if someone wants, whether they're an acquaintance of mine or a good friend of mine or just a mutual respect thing, and we've never, maybe even we've never even met, but we admire each other's art from afar, and I'm contacted by them in some capacity, email, or just find me on Facebook. Sometimes, shit, they won't have a number for me, so they just go blindly look me up on the internet and contact me somehow and say, "Hey, what would it take to collaborate with you?" Or, "Hey, can you put a vocal on here?" Or, "Hey, I need some backup." It's like studio work with people that you've either heard of or have never heard of, and they send you a sample. I've learned about a lot of art that way. So the people that like what I do with my rainbow of style and projects, if they like what I do, and I'm easy to find, like I'm writing with Jack Frost. His project is called Seven Witches, but he's the guitar player for Aldo Nova. He was in Sabotage for a minute. He's been in, uh, I may have met him one time. I don't even remember if I've ever met the guy, but we know each other somewhat just because our paths cross all the time, whether it be in person or not. I'm also finishing up a record with David Austin from Nasty Savage. He's got a project called DNA, and I'm three songs into that record with him, and there's no deadline on these, so we just, he sends me songs, and I write the lyrics and cut a vocal and send the vocals back to him, and we just keep stacking them up till we have enough for a record, and that's kind of how that goes. But there's about 4 or 5 different projects like that are either happening now or that I just finished up, or that's there's a project called Cassius King that I did over the lockdown and the pandemic years, and we made 2 great records. You can find those anywhere. They're on the first record is called Field Trip. You can find that on Nomad Eel Records on Bandcamp. And there's a second record by Cassius King called Dread the Dawn. And it's kind of like you mentioned stoner rock earlier. I wouldn't, a lot of people kind of put it in with that because it kind of has that doomy feel to it. But it's not really doom and it's not really stoner. It's just kind of Sabbath influenced
Hmm.
rock. I mean, it's almost just like if Dio had a new rock band. I mean, I'm not saying I sound like Dio, but I'm channeling a little bit of old Ozzy and some old Dio in there, but there might be some Ian Gillan in there too. It's if Rainbow and Sabbath and Dio and it's pretty. I don't know. I even hear like old Kiss, like the heavier Kiss tunes maybe are in there as well. But they can check out Cassius King on Nomad Eel Records on Bandcamp. So
Speaking of kids,
that's another project as well. So there's a bunch of that kind of stuff. So
you have a band you do Kiss songs with too, right? Called Sick.
haven't done that project in about 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. you also have been doing some shows where you did in the past where you sung for some singers who got sick too. So you've done it all. You've been not just Dangerous Toys, not just Broken Teeth. You've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the band that I was in and right out of high school, Watchtower, is has been doing some resurgence for a little bit over a year now. We played some festivals, went to Germany and played Keep It True. We played Hell's Heroes in Houston, and we are playing in Houston this weekend, actually, at BFE Club. It's a club, probably holds 500 people. And so, yeah, Watchtower is something I was doing when I was 18 years old. And the phone rang one day, about 2 years ago now, I guess. And I called the guys, and some of them I haven't talked to in at least 20 years. Because the last Watchtower reunion I did was in 2004. So
Wow, 20 years ago.
that's crazy that's happening now. And I love that band. And that's kind of the band that I cut my teeth as a singer in because I was basically a child. We were all very young when that band was. People still want to hear songs that are over 40 years old. I can't believe it.
Does it blow your mind now to see people want to hear that stuff, like you said?
Well, it feels funny kind of talking about, myself in the way of that it's kind of something of legend, but and pioneering of a certain style. Chuck from Death and Mike from Dream Theater have gone on record to say that Watchtower was a huge influence. Gene Hoglan, who is in Death to All, Dark Angel, he's been in Testament. He's been in a bunch of bands. But yeah, between Gene Hoglan, Chuck Schuldiner, and Mike Portnoy, Watchtower kind of has been called a pioneering of progressive thrash metal for since the 80s. So to get the call to reform to play some shows that so many years later it's a trip. It's a trip.
That's got to be great that your peers think that much of you.
Yeah. It is great. And I feel it makes me feel special. I know that sounds kind of funny, but because I'm just a fan, and I love music, and I love performing, and I love writing, and you know, um, as long as the phone keeps ringing, I'm gonna keep rocking.
So, how can people reach out to you if they're looking to get something from one of your bands signed, or they want to purchase something from you? Do they go to your website or?
Yeah, you can go to my website. There's a contact there. I'm easy to find. My website is jasonmcmaster.net, and there's a feedback forum there. They can click on something and fill out a form, and I answer them immediately. They come right to my email. Um, you can hit me up on Facebook. I know that sounds cheesy, but you can, just message me direct on Facebook and ask questions or whatever, and who to contact for bookings and things like that.
Great, great. Well, it looks like you got a lot of stuff going on in the future, and I appreciate a little bit of your time along the way.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.